Okay, good morning. My name is Staff Sergeant Bartlett, and today I'm going to be talking to you for a few minutes about the meaning of consent, specifically the definition of consent and the importance of consent in personal interactions. Okay? Well, when it comes to consent, the simple definition means no, but sometimes yes can also mean a no, and this is where things get a bit tricky. With some basic information and tips, you can develop the knowledge to recognize when consent is genuine and how to communicate your true intentions to your partner. So with that in mind, can anyone think of a time where yes could not actually mean yes?
Let's say if the person, we'll say the assaulter is cornering the victim into a enclosed area, and the assaultee continues to pursue, and the victim is forced to give a yes in fear for their lives.
That's a good example. Okay, so understanding consent to sexual activity is a vital part of preventing sexual assault. According to statistics provided by the U.S. Department of Justice and distributed by RAINN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, 1 in 6 American women and 1 in 33 American men have been victims of sexual assault. Those most at risk are between ages 17 and 34. This is also the age of most active duty soldiers, which is you guys. Sexual assault is a priority concern within the Army. The Army utilizes a program called SHARP to address sexual impropriety in the workplace, but it doesn't give much information on how to avoid sexual assault in private homes. To start out, let's answer the question, what is consent? Most of us would say consent is when someone willingly takes part in a sexual exchange with another person. This could be as simple as a flirtatious touch, not just sexual intercourse. To engage in sexual activity without adequate consent is an illegal assault. Sexual contact of any kind without consent is a violent act, even if you don't think it counts as rape. The question of what constitutes consent can create a legal and ethical gray area. Consent is not directly defined in many states. There is no section of the legal code that says exactly what consent is. Instead, consent is a legal term that is clarified by the description of the meaning of the lack of consent by various laws across the country. Each state has its own legal definition. These laws tell us what situations are not consensual, but did not make it easy to determine what is consensual. Because of this, many campaigns against sexual assault have adopted the slogan, no means no. The easy to remember the slogan is problematic because it doesn't take into account many variations of sexual communication. Some people use inflection and body language to imply that a verbal no may be a coy invitation. If one assumes that every no actually means no, the worst that can happen is a missed opportunity. But the inverse of this implication is not as innocuous. Teaching that no means no implies that anything other than a clear no could be considered consent. However, consent does not equal the absence of a no. Consent can be nuanced and difficult to detect. Sharing a bed, sensual touch, undressing in the presence of another person can all be cues to indicate consent. But something as subtle as facial expression or tone of voice can communicate that the person does not actually want to take things further. To ensure that you're getting genuine expression of consent, you must determine if the person you are with is capable of giving consent. The legal age of consent may be different in each state. For instance, in the state of Kentucky, the minimum legal age of consent is 16. However, in Tennessee, the minimum legal age of consent is 18. Consent cannot be obtained by a person under the influence of drugs or alcohol. Coercion, such as, I paid for dinner, you owe me, or come on, don't you care about me, does not result in genuine consent. Consent cannot be given by a subordinate and cannot be obtained through manipulation of a position of power. For example, relationships like an NCO and a soldier, a teacher and a student, a landlord and a renter, or law enforcement and a civilian. Pressuring someone to engage in a sexual activity under these circumstances is called duress and does not constitute consent. Now, with all this information about what is consent, how do we know when we have a genuine yes? Consent might not always be verbal, but a verbal yes is preferred. When a verbal yes is given, listen to the tone and inflection in your partner's speech. A genuine yes will be enthusiastic, not mumbled or garbled. A casual, yeah, okay, may not be a genuine show of consent depending on the tone used. Pay close attention to your partner's body language. Any tensing of the muscles or lost eye contact may indicate they do not actually want to continue. Blushing and drawing away are warning signs that might mean they do not want to participate. In this instance, you should directly ask your partner, "Is this okay?" and reassure them that it's all right if you don't want to. This is important to make certain your partner feels safe with you. Which leads us to the next point. Be aware of the environment you're in. Yes may not be genuine if the other person doesn't feel it is safe to say so. For example, if a guy picks up his date and takes her back to his place for an evening of Netflix and chill, he might view this as an indication that sex is expected, but she may not. She may also feel like she can't say no since she is in an unfamiliar neighborhood without her own transportation and doesn't know how to get home. Now that we have established what consent is, how do we communicate it to our partner? First, use clear and concise verbal language. If you want to have sex with someone, be as upfront as you can with them about your intent. Yes, I want to have sex with you leaves no room for misinterpretation. Be consistent. When engaging in sexual interactions with the same person over time, it is important that you maintain consistency in the way that you give consent. That doesn't mean use the same line every time. It means that if you use clear verbal language to let your partner know you want to be intimate, don't later start using vague innuendo that might not be obvious to your partner that you are enthusiastic participating. Lastly, remember consent can be revoked at any time. Just because you or your partner said you wanted to have sex does not mean that you're obligated to continue engaging in sexual activity for as long as the other person wants to. If you change your mind or your partner stops responding enthusiastically, stop. Healthy sexual interaction is an important part of human relationships. Understanding consent, both how to give and how to recognize consent, is key to preventing sexual assault. If you or someone you know is a victim of sexual assault, resources are available for you to get help. Sexual assault is never the victim's fault. Ending sexual violence is everyone's responsibility. Thank you.